Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the HPC. This is their part number VDG-10. This is a latch guard is what it is. This is a latch guard that will help, certainly significantly help seal the gap between the latch and the strike on an outswinging door. This would be only for outswing. And knowing HPC, they've probably got some special features in here that other people don't. And I can recognize one that I'm not unaware of anyone else having. Additionally, I can see another, and let's start with it. So this is an outswinging latch guard. What makes it, in my experience, having reviewed lots of latch guards, this is different in that it has 2 points of mounting or securing to the door, both through the door with carriage bolts that are included, then to the edge of the door as well. Okay, I'm not familiar with anybody who has 2 points of mounting in a single outswing latch guard. The other thing that occurs to me is that this is smart in that it will get those carriage bolts away from the stop of the frame as well. Certain other designs of latch guards need a blind or a very shallow projection type bolt so that it doesn't, when the door closes, the head of the bolt doesn't hit that stop, preventing the door from closing. So what I'm trying to say is your door is going to be obviously in this area. This is going to overlap and cover up, and then your stop is obviously going to be in this area. Okay. Another thing I've just recognized is they've got carriage bolts, and those are important because a square prep, carriage bolts always have a square head underneath so that you can't turn them. And immediately looking at the bolts, they tell me they're a little bit too long, 2 3/8. Obviously for an 1 3/4 thick door, but when you look at the parts, for each of the carriage bolts, you get a flat washer, you get a typical quarter 20 nut. I'm quite sure these are quarter 20. Then you get an acorn nut as well. Okay, nuts do have a tendency to get loose. Not in a early 80s rap song, get loose, but just become loose. Okay, so what I would do is I would tighten that down to the door, and then I would make these 2 nuts tighten onto each other, and that will pretty much eliminate the possibility of it going anywhere. And I would probably even use some thread lock. Now I might also cut that bolt down a little bit. Projecting hardware is never ideal on a door, and there's a lot of projecting hardware that's there. Although it's an outswing, and you're really probably not going to come in contact with it. But as your door opens, you know, you've got this much of a bolt sticking off the face of your door. You might want to make that a bit more elegant. And then at that point, you're right at 1 3/4. Okay, so you'd be in real good shape on that regard. Let's study the rest of this latch guard. Now, removing the bolt from the unit. You know, if you were to go buy, say, a 2-inch bolt, the problem with that is the head won't be that painted finish. May or may not matter to you. The item with its bolts weighs 0.8 pound, to give you an idea of its weight. Installation instructions, there's a scan of this down below. Center the guard over the lock face. Mark the bolt holes and drill 1/4-inch holes slowly through the door. Well, they're not 1/4-inch carriage bolts at that point. You'd probably want to drill a hole slightly larger. Secure the plate by using the 2 bolts, washers, and acorn nuts. So obviously these bolts are longer than the installation instructions give, so the way that we fix that is just send some of these, I guess. Mark and also apply the 4 wood screws. So 4 screws into the edge. They gave us slotted, threaded to the head screws for installing like that. If you're going into a steel door, you could probably get away with drilling and tapping it, because you may have ample steel in the edge of the door to do so. Maybe you don't. Nonetheless, steel. It's awfully thin, but if you're a guy who prides himself with a welder, you'd be able to weld this to the face of your door. Dimensional properties as promised. Overall height of the unit, 14 inch. Overall width on the face, 1 3/4. Where it's going to overlap over the frame, you're looking at about 5/8. The door side, you're going to overlap about 1 inch. Now here's what occurs to me as possibly being a problem with this. Thickness of the material on the outside is 0.072, 0.072. On the exterior side, where you've got two pieces welded together, you got 0.12, 0.12. Here's the one issue I see with this. An exterior door, assuming that you have a strike plate and a latch bolt. The strike plate probably has a curve on it, which means when you place this onto the door, that lip is going to hit the face of this. So what do? Well, you either kick this out and leave a void between the face of the door to account for the lip, which is not ideal, or what some people do is they'll take that strike and they'll grind the lip down so that you can bring this latch guard up really tight to the face of the frame. Also be mindful when you're placing this, your door is probably inset into the frame. 3/32, especially if it's a hollow metal door and frame, it very likely is. So you'll need to hold it off a little bit so that the door can actually close, because the door actually goes into the frame ever so slightly. So be mindful of the requirements of how you're going to space it onto the door. Filing the strike down is not, grinding the lip down is not necessarily a problem, but you will probably encounter an issue with the strike plate angle that the latch bolt makes contact with. Important. You can't just cut it flat. The latch bolt's going to hit it and just dink, stop. You're going to want to put a bevel on that to achieve some success, and you'll notice that those strike plates, they're quite turned over. There is a very pronounced lip and curve on that strike. And when you go away from that, you do compromise the ability of the latch bolt being pushed back correctly. So, you know, if it's a commercial door and it's your exit that you go out and lock, and you personally push the door closed and you lock it and you lock it and you lock it, or whatever you do, you're going to be in good shape. If it's a fire-rated door and that door has to be self-closing and obviously self-latching as well, you're in the area where, you know, you might have to really account for that strike lip. If it was me, I might want to make sure I could modify my strike to pull that latch guard up tight to the door as possible before I started drilling holes through the door. Replacing a strike plate's not a big deal, but removing this once you've got it installed to find out your door no longer latches nicely, you know, that's an issue. It could be a employee entrance and you've got a door status monitor, a door switch on it, that you want to know the condition of the door, open, closed. It's got to close, obviously, etc. So down below is, so the installation, keep those concepts in mind, how far you place it off the face of the door, the strike plate, the latch bolt, and how all of that will work together. The VDG -10, I'm not sure why it's a -10. Doesn't measure anything 10. Could just be their part number. Strongest and most popular guard plate, 14-inch long, made of two pieces of 16-gauge cold-rolled steel welded together with a baked matte bronze finish. The guard plate offers maximum resistance to prying and forcing. It mounts onto the door with two carriage bolts through the door, anchored with the nut and the cap nut on the inside. 4 wood screws go into the edge of the door. Guard plate comes with all necessary hardware and installation instructions. So the advantage is it's really reasonably difficult to attack this. And the bottom line is thieves are not looking to spend lots of time attacking a piece of hardware to get in. Latch guards generally just keep honest people honest, is really what they do. And I can't think of times when I've seen them attacked. You know, move along to the next door. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the HPC products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Now, the name HPC is quite synonymous with not only security hardware, but key cutting equipment as well. They make some tools that are utterly considered industry standard when it comes to key duplication. They have a variety of locksmithing tools as well. That link below this video to their manufacturer's page will allow you to review that catalog and all of the items that are associated with the name HPC. I like HPC a lot. They've been in business for decades. When I ask them a technical question, they answer. So that's, you know, that's a really good start when you do get a response. Any questions on the VDG-10 large guard plate or any other HPC product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.